I'm Tim Lockie, and I help humans use technology, and I focus that mostly on nonprofits. I started working in technology consulting for nonprofits in 2010. I built a business around that. I scaled that business to 20 staff. I took it from being, nothing to being a premium partner in the Salesforce.org ecosystem. I became an MVP, traveled around the world. I was really in it. I loved it. I really believed in what we were doing. And then I went to this one conference, and this guy put up a statistic that said 90% of organizations collect data, but only 5% use that data to make decisions. And that was it. Like, that was the end of my business. It took a couple of years for it to deflate, but I just stopped being able to sell because I quit believing in what I was doing. And I felt like I was part of the problem. We were creating these really large technology systems and processes for organizations, and it was like they wouldn't know how to use them. So I spent 2 years trying to learn how to explain this new process I'd come up with and that nobody was interested in. And it was way outside of how the market does things. And so I stopped trying to explain it to anybody except my mom and tried to get it to pass the mom marketing test, right? And so I finally got it to pass when I said, Mom, imagine that these big technology platforms like Microsoft and Salesforce and all that, imagine those are like car manufacturers. And my old business was like a car dealership. And nonprofits would come and they would order their car, and we'd like get the right trim and the right model and the soft credit tow package and donor advised lighting and all that. And we'd give them the keys and we would watch them wreck it driving off the lot because they didn't know how to drive. And the issue is they went to a dealership instead of the DMV because it doesn't exist. And there isn't really driver's ed to help people just use technology. And maybe they didn't even need a new car. Maybe they just needed to learn how to drive the one that they were in. And so I created a methodology that helps people to drive technology that they already have in organizations that are struggling to just use technology. AA made such a huge difference because it allowed me to get grounded in the fact that I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I understood how to make the technology. I had all of the pieces together, but I couldn't assemble them into a sellable story people could understand. And I didn't know how to do market research. I didn't know how to go and find ICAs. I didn't know what questions to ask them. So I was just interviewing people and getting confirmation bias and thinking I was like barking up the right tree when I wasn't. And so when I joined the program and started watching how Sunny was directing people back to the foundations of the program to say, no, do you have something? What transformation are you causing people to make in their own lives? What is the point of inflection that they're at right now that makes them want to talk about what you are selling? All of that is exactly what I needed in order to better understand the program and to see, like, this isn't just about creating the right solution. This is about creating the right solution that meets people where they're at. And that was the part that I struggled with. When I started following the steps, when I started doing that work, what I found was it put everything in order. And I had to take a couple of runs at it. I did a cohort and it didn't work. I did another cohort, it didn't work. And then I was meeting with this one person, and it was supposed to be like a event where a Q&A thing where people were going to come and talk to me, and only one person showed up. And it was this person from a small nonprofit with less than 6 people. And I was just talking with her, and I felt like maybe this is a waste of my time, but she was really great. And I was like, no, this is really fun. She's exactly who I want to be talking with. And so I just laid out some of the steps on what I was doing. And at the end of the call, I realized this is it. This is the course. It's to small nonprofits, not big ones, because that's who's really struggling with it. So all along, it was just one foot in front of the other and leaning into the community to know, what am I trying to do? What is the transformation people are looking for? And I couldn't have gotten there without Sunny. I just couldn't have gotten there without the AA community and the steps. Some of the results for me have been pre-sale. In other words, they've been definitive on me understanding what I'm not doing, which took a really long time. I told you about my mom, but here's the story behind my dad. Okay. So my dad learned to drive when he was 6 years old, which blew my mind. I just found this out like this year. My dad learned to drive when he was 6 years old. And my grandpa just said, okay, here's a Jeep and there's the cows. Go get them to the barn. And when we're done milking, get them back to the field. And it hit me that it's actually okay to teach kids how to drive in some context, but not in the city, right? Obviously. And what I realized from doing this work and thinking about it is I was trying to do city driving. And if I started to look at small nonprofits, they didn't need city driving. So I took all of the stuff I'd been working on with the program and before that, and I pulled all the city driving out of it. And when I looked at that, I was like, this is the perfect size for small nonprofits. And I wouldn't have gotten there if I wasn't asking the questions that your team keeps putting in front of me to ask. So the first thing is just defining what is it exactly. And because I had that, I felt so confident about going back to the person I'd learned it from, that person that was in that one class, and showed her the program. She was like, sign me up. I can't wait. This is perfect. And I felt really happy. 2 days later, she called me back and she said, could you deliver this program to 30 to 50 organizations? And I said, sure. And it turned out she was part of this network of organizations. So tomorrow we're launching with her from that story. We're launching with 20 organizations that got funding to do digital transformation, and they're starting with Digital Driver's Ed, which is my program. It's been really incredible to watch my metrics. So I was gaining about 10 contacts per month that were interested in what I was doing. When I started talking about Digital Driver's Ed and I dialed it into here's what it is, here's what it's not, suddenly we started to see so many more contacts coming in and talking about this and getting excited about it. Now, nonprofits are a long sell and it's a B2B sell, so it's a challenge. But what we're seeing is that it took us 327 days to get 200 contacts interested in what we were talking about. After Digital Driver's Ed, the next 200, it took 42 days. The next 200 after that, it took 18 days, and we're now 15 days into the net. So we're seeing this just start to accelerate because people are spreading the story around and talking to each other about that. So that to me feels like a huge win, because partly I just want people to be thinking about how do we get better at technology and not replace all of our systems. So that feels like a big win as well. What would I say to someone who's interested in investing in AA? The first thing I'd say is email me, because I want the credit for that. So that would be the first thing I would say. And I'm not even kidding. I have introduced quite a few people to the program, and I just am introducing them because it works. So it's funny, while we're on this call, I just got a text from one of the people that I introduced who's talking about when they had with 5 ICAs that they just performed this last week. So I am out there talking about this program because I think it works. It gets past just how do you turn your content into a course and gets into how do you know whether you should do that in the first place with market research? How do you learn how to talk to people and create a sales process second? And then how do you deliver that in a way that allows you to make modifications in the early stages before you cement it into the long-term version? That process I never would have known. And I was just at a mastermind with 3 other CEOs this past weekend, and one of them works in sports sponsorships, and he got us into the back, an all access pass to the Indy race in Nashville, Tennessee. So we're sitting there in the pits and looking at all this. Anyway, he took the course. We took some time to say, what's working in our businesses? The number one thing that he said is working for him, Sunny's course. And he said, Tim, if you had not introduced me to it, I would have gone down a totally different path. I would have priced it incorrectly. I would have been competing the same way everybody else is. I wouldn't have known what not to do. So this course has made a huge difference. So it's not just me, it's the people that I know that I'm interacting with, and they keep finding the same thing I found. We would have made a lot of big mistakes, and this is a monumental amount of work. And so you don't want to do it wrong and have to redo it. In summary, email me if you're interested. I'll send you a code, and then I'll get the credit for it.